by Bernard Brand. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
From the pages, change your world. They can change your heart, they can change your mind, they can change your life. Can change your world.
All right, good morning. What's going on, Ms. Bright? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is ERGJ, Certified Financial Educator, back with the new Black Wall Street Virtual Book Club. And we are going through the book, The 48 Laws of Power. And we are now on to law number 31. It means we got 17 more laws to go. And in case you don't know, we will be moving this over to our ERGJ Enterprises Facebook page. So if you want to continue to go along with us as we go through more books to change the way that we think so we can change the results in our life, make sure that you go ahead and like and follow ERGJ Enterprises. Now, the reason why we're going through this book, The 48 Laws of Power, is because this book is filled with strategy. So everybody put in the comments below strategy. And so what we want to do is we want to use strategy to, number one, to learn how to apply these laws to our life. But then number two, to understand when these laws are being applied against us so we can always operate from a position of power. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Wesley Learns About Credit. This is the new book that just came in. As a matter of fact, we are down to our last one. So this is the last one that we have to get for you. It's a children's book, and it's introducing the first time ever a fictional children's book offering a kid-friendly peek into the world of credit. Now, here's the deal, guys. We all know that we wish we'd have learned about credit at a very, very young age. Many of us didn't learn about credit until we got that credit card in college, and that was a bad thing. So you want to make sure you put this book into your library and allow your children to understand credit at a young age. You do have the opportunity to do that with a book that's illustrated, that's got nice little pictures, and it walks you through a 5-6-year-old learning about this world of credit. This book you can get through us at 678-851-2400, or just go ahead and inbox us your email address and your zip code for the final book. That's right. This book is almost sold out. We just got it yesterday, so it is a very, very hot item. Again, you can inbox us, or you can give us a call, or text us, or inbox us, either way, so you can get the book here. Now, we do have a couple things we want to make you aware of as it relates to things that are going on in our network. We do have the Power of Equity Funding. That class is going to be tonight. So you have up until 6 o'clock to get your tickets to learn about an alternative way for you to raise capital for your venture or for your project. Everybody always talks about they don't have the money. But then when they have the opportunity to learn how to get money, they don't show up. That's why you don't have money, because you never show up. So at the end of the day, it's going to be your choice to show up to learn about this thing called money and how you can actually get money for your projects without having to get a loan. That is a big deal to me. I don't know about you, but I'm going to be there. And then also we have tomorrow, we have our introduction into commercial shipping. So if you're saying that maybe you work from home and you want to learn how you can actually save money with your shipping, well, you need to learn about commercial shipping and how you can actually save money on all the packages that you send out. Matter of fact, today I'm sending out about 10, 11, 12 packages. So every little bit I can save is more money that comes into my pocket, more money for my bottom line. And then also we have on Wednesday, we have our Dow 30 investment session. This session is going to be for the beginner. So if you are a beginner investor, your first time ever investing, you don't know anything about it, well, you want to make sure that you're there for our beginner investing session. That's the Dow 30 investment session. So we're going to be going through the 30 most significant stocks in America. And matter of fact, on Wednesday this week, we're going to be going through the companies Pfizer, Chevron, Travelers, General Electric, Walmart, and ExxonMobil. So again, if you are a beginner, you don't know anything about investing, this is what we have this session for, to help you to understand this thing called money and how you can make your money work for you by starting with the 30 most significant companies in America. But that's going to be it for our announcements this morning. Again, you want to get the book, Wesley Learns About Credit. This is our last one. You want to get that into your shelf, get that into your storehouse. Then we have the offers that are coming up where you can actually learn about the power of equity funding, an alternative way to get capital, the introduction to commercial shipping, and then also our Dow 30 investment session. But we are going through the 48 Laws of Power. That's what is this morning is about, 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. We're on day law number 31. Law number 31, which is control the options. Control the options. Everybody put in the comments below, control the options. Now, what we're going to learn today is how this law is being used typically against us, how our options are being controlled. And we'll talk about a couple different options as far as what that may look like as we go through this law today. Now, control the options. Get others to play the cards you deal. Get others to play the cards you deal. Well, I know you don't have a lot of time, and I don't either. It's law number 31. Let's get it. So here's your judgment. The best deceptions are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice. The illusion of choice. Your victims feel they are in control, but are actually your puppets. Give people options that come out in your favor, whichever one they choose. Force them to make choices between the lesser of two evils, both of which serve your purpose. Put them on the horns of a dilemma. They are gored wherever they turn. As everybody was saying, how do you choose between the lesser of two evils? Well, guys, once you begin to understand that these laws are played against the American people time and time again, well, you'll see why we had to choose between the lesser of two evils. Why? Because they were controlling the options, and they were getting us to play with the cards that they deal, right? That's really what happened. Let's repeat this again. The best deceptions are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice. Your victims, we were the victims of the elections, feel they are in control, but are actually your puppets. We were the puppets. Give people options that come out in your favor, whichever one they choose. Force them to make choices between the lesser of two evils, both of which serve your purpose. So I know many of you guys, you may think, oh, you don't like Donald Trump, you don't want him in office, you want to impeach him. But here's the deal. Regardless of whether it was Trump or it was Hillary, we still be in the same situation. I don't think you guys really understand that they forced our hands with these two candidates, the lesser of two evils, and neither one is the lesser of two evils. They both would have put us in the very same position. If Hillary was president right now, we'd be talking about impeaching Hillary. So, do we focus on controlling what we can't control? I don't think so. Put them on the horns of a dilemma. They are gored whichever way they turn. The American people are gored no matter which way they would have turned as it relates to our options being controlled. Now, here are keys to power. Here's what we want to learn about power today. Words like freedom, options, and choice evoke a power of possibility. Everybody put in the comments below the power of possibility. Words like freedom, options, and choice evoke a power of possibility, far beyond the reality of the benefits they entail. When examined closely, the choices we have in the marketplace, in elections, in our jobs, tend to have noticeable limitations. They are often a matter of a choice simply between A and B, with the rest of the alphabet out of the picture. Yet, as long as the faintest mirage of choice flickers on, we rarely focus on the missing options. We choose to believe that the game is fair and that we have our freedom. We prefer not to think too much about the depth of our liberty to choose. This is some deep stuff. We choose to believe that the game is fair and that we have our freedom. We prefer not to think too much about the depth of our liberty to choose. The unwillingness to probe the smallness of our choices stems from the fact that too much freedom creates a kind of anxiety. The phrase unlimited options sounds infinitely promising, but unlimited options would actually paralyze us and cloud our ability to choose. Our limited range of choice comforts us. This supplies the clever and cunning with enormous opportunities for deception. For people who are choosing between alternatives, find it hard to believe they are being manipulated or deceived. They cannot see that you are allowing them a small amount of free will in exchange for a much more powerful imposition of your own will. Setting up a narrow range of choices then should always be a part of your deceptions. There's a saying, if you can get the bird to walk into the cage on its own, it will sing that much more prettily. The following are among the most common forms of controlling the options. Number one, color the choices. Color, let me type this down. Color the choices. So this was a favorite technique of Henry Kissinger. As President Richard Nixon's Secretary of State, Kissinger considered himself better informed than his boss, and he believed that in most situations, he could make the best decision on his own. But if he tried to determine policy, he would offend or perhaps enrage a notoriously insecure man. So Kissinger would propose 3 or 4 choices of action for each situation and would present them in such a way that the one he preferred always seemed the best solution compared to the others. Time after time, Nixon fell for the bait, never suspecting that he was moving where Kissinger pushed him. This is an excellent device to use on the insecure master. The excellent device to use on the insecure master. Color the choices. So in other words, you're going to present all these different options, right? But you're going to make the option that you really want your master or your boss or your superior to choose sound that much sweeter. I think many of us are pretty good at this, right? We want to lay it on thick on the option that we want them to choose, and 9 times out of 10 they choose that option. They think they're in control by making the choice, but we are actually in control in our sales presentation for that particular option. Number 2, the second strategy for getting people or controlling the options, right? Force the resistor. Force the resistor. One of the main problems faced by Dr. Milton H. Erickson, a pioneer of hypnosis therapy in the 1950s, was the relapse. His patients might seem to be recovering rapidly, but their apparent susceptibility to the therapy masked a deep resistance. They would soon relapse into old habits, blame the doctor, and stop coming to see him. To avoid this, Erickson began ordering some patients to have a relapse, to make themselves feel as bad as when they first came in, to go back to square one. Faced with this option, the patients would actually choose to avoid the relapse, which of course was what Erickson really wanted. This is a good technique to use on children and other willful people who enjoy doing the opposite of what you ask them to do. Push them to choose what you want them to do by appearing to advocate the opposite. This is like you're pushing them to one thing, but you know they're going to always rebel for this one thing. They're going to resist this option. So because they're going to resist the option that you present, they're going to automatically choose the other option, which is what you wanted them to choose to begin with. Use this technique on children and other willful people who enjoy doing the opposite of what you ask them to do. So how many of you guys know some people who enjoy doing the opposite of whatever it is that you ask them to do? Well, we're learning a technique that you can use to get them to choose what you want them to choose anyway, by actually advocating the opposite of what it is that you want. And then they in turn will choose the opposite of what you present. Force the resistor. The next strategy, as you learn to control the options, to get other people to play with the cards that you deal, is alter the playing field. Yeah, contradictions. Contraction. I think it's contradictions, right? Not contractions, right? What's going on, Brandon? Alter the playing field. In 1860s, John D. Rockefeller set out to, matter of fact, David Rockefeller just died yesterday. Contrarians. Yeah, there you go. In 1860s, John D. Rockefeller set out to create an oil monopoly. If he tried to buy up the smaller oil companies, they would figure out what he was doing and fight back. Instead, he began secretly buying up the railway companies that transported the oil. When he attempted to take over a particular company and met with resistance, he reminded them of their dependence on the rails. Refusing them shipping or simply raising their fees could ruin their business. Rockefeller altered the playing field so that the only options the small oil producers had were the ones he gave them. In this tactic, your opponents know their hand is being forced, but it doesn't matter. The technique is effective against those who resist all costs. Alter the playing field. So if you want to get people, you want to control the options, and you want to get other people to play with the cards you dealt. We've talked about color the choices, force the resistor, and now we're talking about altering the playing field so that you can always be in control. And when you are in control, you have the power. All right. The next strategy as it relates to controlling the options is the shrinking options. The shrinking options. The late 19th century art dealer Ambrose Vollard perfected this technique. Customers would come to Vollard's shop to see some Cézannes. I don't even know how to say that. He would show 3 paintings, neglect to mention a price, and pretend to doze off. The visitor would have to leave without deciding. They would usually come back the next day to see the paintings again, but this time, Vollard will pull out less interesting works, pretending that he thought they were the same ones. The baffled customers will look at the new offerings, leave to think them over, and return yet again. Once again, the same thing would happen. Vollard would show paintings of lesser quality still. Finally, the buyers would realize they had better grab what he was showing them, because tomorrow they would have to settle for something worse, perhaps at even higher prices. A variation of this technique is to raise the price every time the buyer hesitates and another day goes by. Listen to this. A strategy that you can use is this. Raise the price every time the buyer hesitates and another day goes by. These are the people that are going to procrastinate in buying your stuff. If you raise the price on a regular basis, eventually they're going to say, I better get it before the price gets too out of hand, right? So a variation of so you have one variation, which is you lower the price and you lower the quality and don't discuss the price. So every time that your customer comes to your business, they're going to realize they missed a good opportunity in the beginning and they better grab an opportunity now. The second variation is for you to raise the price on a regular basis. Then they'll realize, hey, I could have got a great deal in the beginning. I better get this deal now before the price continues to rise. This is an excellent negotiating ploy to use on the chronically indecisive. How many guys know some chronic indecisive people? They do not know how to make a decision. You got to make them pay for their indecisiveness. To use on a chronically indecisive, who will fall for the idea that they are getting a better deal today than if they wait till tomorrow. This is all about that sense of urgency, the fear of loss. Thanks so much, Brandon. Right? Instilling in them the understanding if they wait till tomorrow, they'll lose the deal today. The car lots do this very well. Make you feel like you're losing something if you don't buy today. What is it that they might lose if they don't buy today? All right, the next strategy as it relates to controlling the options. Controlling the options. It's called the weak man on the precipice. The weak man on the, this is interesting. The weak man on the precipice. All right, the weak are the easiest to maneuver by controlling their options. Cardinal de Retz, the great 17th century provocateur, served as an unofficial assistant to the Duke of Orleans, who was notoriously indecisive. It was a constant struggle to convince the Duke to take action. He would hem and haw, weigh the options, and wait to the last moment, giving everyone around him an ulcer. But Retz discovered a way to handle him. He would describe all sorts of dangers, exaggerating them as much as possible until the Duke saw a yawning abyss in every direction except one, the one Retz was pushing him to take. This tactic is similar to color the choices, but with the weak, you have to be more aggressive. Work on their emotions. Use fear and terror to propel them into action. Try reason, and they will always find a way to procrastinate. You cannot reason with emotionally charged people. I'll repeat that again. You cannot reason with emotionally charged people. You must actually work on their emotions and be even more aggressive in propagating fear and terror to get them to move. This, you want to know who does this technique very well? This technique is used in the church all the time. the weak man on the precipice, to propagate fear and terror if you don't make a decision to come to Jesus right now. This is the technique that the church uses all the time. They prey on the emotionally weak people. Don't shut me down because I'm preaching good. That's just what it is. The weak man on the precipice. So again, we read these to understand not only how we can apply these laws to our life, but understand when these laws are being applied against us. And I just saw a law that's being used against indecisive people. I've seen a law or a strategy that's being used against emotionally charged people. Work on their emotions. Use fear and terror to propel them into action. Hell and brimstones. The whole world is going to crumble if you don't make a decision to come to Jesus today. All right. I'm just, hey, it is what it is. Don't get mad at me because we are uncovering strategy. Don't get mad at me. All right, the next strategy as it relates to controlling the options of other people is called brothers in crime. This is a classic con artist technique. You attract your victims to some criminal scheme, creating a bond of blood and guilt between you. They participate in your deception, commit a crime or think they do. See the story of Sam Gazelle, Law 3, and are easily manipulated. Serge Stavisky, the great French con artist of the 1920s, so entangled the government in his scams and swindles that the state did not dare to prosecute him and choose to leave him alone. It is often wise to implicate in your deceptions the very person who can do you the most harm if you fail. Their involvement can be subtle. Even a hint of their involvement will narrow their options and buy their silence. Brothers in crime. Now, I don't know how I would use that one. I don't know what to say about that one. And here's the last one. The horns of a dilemma. Ooh. The horns of a dilemma. All right. This idea was demonstrated by General William Sherman's infamous march through Georgia during the American Civil War. Although the Confederates knew what direction Sherman was heading in, they never knew if he would attack from the left or the right, for he divided his army into two wings. And if the rebels retreated from one wing, they found themselves facing the other. This is a classic trial lawyer's technique. The lawyer leads the witnesses to decide between two possible explanations of an event, both of which poke a hole in their story. They have to answer the lawyer's questions, but whatever they say they hurt themselves. The key to this move is to strike quickly. Deny the victim the time to think of his escape. As they wiggle between the horns of dilemma, they dig their own grave. In other words, what we're saying is you place people in a position where they are in between a rock and a hard place. No matter what they decide, they are going to find themselves in a very sticky situation, which is the horns of the dilemma. So understand this. In your struggles with your rivals, it will often be necessary for you to hurt them. And if you're clearly the agent of their punishment, expect a counterattack, expect revenge. If, however, they seem to themselves to be the agents of their own misfortune, they will submit quietly. When Ivan left Moscow for his rural village, the citizens asking him to return agreed to his demand of absolute power. Over the years to come, they resented him less for the terror he unleashed over the country, because after all, they had granted him his power themselves. This is why it is always good to allow your victims their choice of poison and to cloak your involvement in providing it to them as far as possible. This is basically, this whole chapter is about the illusion of choice. And what we're saying here is that you learn some of these strategies and you get other people to play with the cards that you deal. When other people are playing with your cards under house rules, you are in control or you are in power of that situation. Now, here's your image. The thing you want to think about as it relates to what we're talking about today. The horns of the bull. The bull backs you into the corner with its horns, not a single horn, which you might be able to escape, but a pair of horns that trap you within their hold. Run right or run left. Either way, you move into their piercing ends and are gored. And here's your authority. For the wounds and every other evil that men inflict upon themselves spontaneously and of their own choice are in the long run less painful than those inflicted by others. When you get other people to make their own mistakes, when you get other people to make their own choices, which leads to their own misfortune versus you forcing them to, then you find yourself in a position of power in that situation. So what we learned today is a few different strategies. The cloaking, what's it called? The color the choices strategy, force the resistor strategy, alter the playing field strategy, the shrinking options technique, the weak man on a precipice technique, the brothers in crime strategy, and the horns of a dilemma strategy, all within the chapter on control the options, get others to play the cards you deal. Let me read this one more time, the judgment. The best deceptions are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice. Your victims feel they are in control, but are actually your puppets. Give people options that come out in your favor, whichever one they choose. Force them to make choices between the lesser of two evils, both of which serve your purpose. Put them on the horns of a dilemma. They are gored whichever way they turn. Well, guys, this is law number 31, going through the 48 laws of power. I mean, we see this stuff happening all the time. As I mentioned, we've seen it in elections. We see it on the job. We've seen it in the church. These strategies are being used all the time on us. And then my goal is to help us to understand or really see these strategies so we can make sure that we individually are always operating from a position of power and we are not subject to these strategies working on us. Well, guys, just want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by Wesley Learns to Invest. This is the last book that we have in stock. You can order this by inboxing us, your email address, and your zip code. Introducing the first time ever fictional children's book offering a kid-friendly peek into the world of credit. How would you have liked your life to be introduced to the world of credit at an early age when you were in the 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade? How would that have changed the way that you deal with credit today? Well, guys, I want to remind you that it takes a village, but it starts with us, man. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Let's build as we climb together.